Okay, so let's talk a minute about soap molds. You do not have to spend a lot of money if you want to make your own soap. Mostly for your family, friends, things like that. You will need, of course, a little more equipment if you like to make enough to sell, but again, you still don't have to go very expensive even then. So first, let's talk about super cheap, especially if you're just starting out and you don't really want to buy equipment at all. So a milk carton is great for this purpose. Rinse it out, wash it out. You can cut the top off. So cut the top off this way, lengthwise, so that way you can pour the soap into it and have a nice block. I mean, technically you could do it like this, then you'd have to kind of tear it apart to get it all out. It'd be easier if you want to do some kind of design if you cut it from this way. The reason the milk carton works is because there's that waxy kind of coating, so it won't adhere to the paper type carton, and then you can just kind of throw this away. Another cheap alternative is they have these cute little cups you can get at most dollar stores. They are pleated, so you can either keep them this size, or you can actually, if you pull a little bit, you can open these up to be even bigger. And I have made soap in these. They pop out just fine, again, because of that kind of slick coating on them. So you can also make soap with these, especially if you're just kind of starting out. Something else you can get from the dollar stores is these cute little containers. They have all sorts of different kinds. The great thing about this is it comes with a lid, but it's just a nice little flexible container. It's not going to hold a ton of soap, but it's enough for you to kind of get started out with. Okay. And again, that's at a dollar store. So these are going to be your cheapest alternatives. Another cheap alternative, and you can get most of these pre-cut at any store like Home Depot, Lowe's, things like that. This is PVC pipe. It doesn't matter what color it is. You're just using it for soap. Mine just happened to be black. Usually when you get them pre-cut like this, they can range anywhere from $3 to $6. This is a 3-inch diameter. I usually, because I use a lot of these, I actually buy the longer pipes and I cut them down to the size I want, which of course is going to be cheaper because there's no labor in cutting them. You do want to make sure though that you get one of the caps, the 3-inch diameter caps, because you're going to need that to make sure obviously the soap doesn't fall through. Now when you're using a container like this, because the soap would technically adhere to this side and it's not going to come out, these types of containers you're going to want to line with a parchment paper. I don't recommend the wax paper, only because the heat of the soap will adhere it to that wax paper, but parchment paper works great for that purpose. So these are your cheapest alternatives, right? So your throwaways, like your milk carton, these cute little slick holders, this little plastic container from Dollar Tree, or the PVC pipe. You can really make a lot of soap with the PVC pipe method because it is reusable. Even if you want to sell it, this is actually how I make soap. You're going to get a little bit more expensive if you start to get into some of the silicone molds. So if you don't want to bother about cutting or anything like that, you can do the molds. This is great if you want to go for shapes, fun things for holidays, things like that. You can also get a lot of these molds, obviously smaller, but those you can get also at the dollar store. Some of your bigger brand stores, department stores carry them as well, and often in clearance. I've gotten some very cute little pineapple popsicle molds that were silicone. Those work great for soap as well. Tend to be pretty cheap. More expensive starts to be some of the molds that you're going to see that more of the professional soap makers make. So this is a silicone column mold. So a lot of people call even the PVC pipe, that's a column mold. You can always get these in different shapes as well. And they are easier to get the soap out of, because with this, I have to hope that the parchment paper and everything else slides out. I'm pretty good at it, so I actually don't have any problems. These actually pull apart, so you can get your soap out rather easily. These tend to range anywhere from $30 to $60, depending on where you're getting it from, the shape, things like that. Another alternative is a silicone loaf mold. So this one is stabilized. It has the stabilizer on the top, so it'll actually stand up on its own and it doesn't need to be set into anything else. And then it flexes really nice to get your soaps out of. So this is traditionally what you see the soaps poured into. You get those nice little rectangular blocks, and sometimes people will scoop the soap on the top to get those shapes. This allows for a lot of design potential where things like the column soaps do not. So that is, depending on where you get these from, they can range anywhere from $6 to $20 each. Now then you get into a little bit more expensive, the mold. So you'll see this is something that's removable. So it comes in a wood stabilizer because this loaf is very flimsy. It will not stand on its own. So that means if I were to pour soap into this, the pressure of the soap is actually going to flex this out, and you're going to end up with very strange looking bars, right? They're going to be shaped different, which if that's what you want, totally cool. You can do that. You could pour soap straight into this without the wooden, but again, it's going to bow, and it's just going to be a little hard to deal with. So that's why they tend to come with these little wooden boxes that you can stick them in, kind of stabilize them. And then sometimes what you can do is you can buy just the silicone piece itself. So you can just have one of these molds and then, or one of the wood stabilizer and a lot of these molds. So that way once it gets stiff, you can pull it out, put another one in there and make some more soap. So depending on the size of these types of mold that you get that are stabilized like this, these can range anywhere from $30 to hundreds of dollars depending on the size. This one here I got because I bought quite a few of them, as you can see. So I believe I only paid like $9 each for these. But they're not always offered in prices like that. What you just need to be aware of is the material that the mold is made out of. So as long as it's got some type of coating so that the soap will actually release from the mold, you're usually good to go. You want to make sure it's always clean. So like even if I'm using a plastic, you're going to want to make sure it flexes so you can pop that soap out. You can use a liner to help with that too. You don't want to use any metal at all because it's not going to flex, and some metals will react poorly with saponification process. It'll actually create a chemical reaction that is toxic. So just stay away from metals in general when you're looking for soap molds. The most popular material, of course, is going to be the silicone, simply because it's extremely easy to release. You don't need any like parchment paper or anything to put on it. They're usually pretty good to work with. But if you're just getting started out, I do recommend something you can just throw away. It's really not going to cost you a lot because you were already getting milk anyway.